It was a typical morning when Dr. Anderson, a renowned surgeon, walked into the hospital and glanced at his patient's file. His eyes stopped on the name, Marcus Green, a black man. Something inside him stirred, a whisper of discomfort he couldn't quite shake. "Not my patient," he muttered under his breath. He never expected that the decision he made that day would come back to haunt him. The next day, Dr. Anderson would learn a brutal lesson about racism, justice, and the power of the human spirit. What happened to Marcus that day would change everything. Watch until the end to find out what happens next. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Dr. Anderson was a highly respected surgeon at St. James Medical Center. He had built his career with determination, precision, and a reputation for excellence. His mornings followed a strict routine. He reviewed patient files, consulted with his staff, and prepped for surgeries that could change lives. He had the confidence of a man who knew he was good at what he did. That morning, however, something seemed different. The file in front of him contained the name Marcus Green. It was a routine checkup, but there was a name, one that carried a weight Dr. Anderson hadn't fully acknowledged before. Marcus Green, a 30-year-old black man, had been assigned to Dr. Anderson for a routine procedure. Dr. Anderson felt his heart race slightly as he saw the name. He couldn't put his finger on it, but something about Marcus made him uneasy. It was a feeling he didn't want to admit to anyone, but there it was, an impulse he couldn't ignore. He left a note in Marcus's file. "Not my patient." The feeling was buried under a veil of professionalism, but it didn't feel right. Yet Dr. Anderson walked away, knowing his decision wouldn't be questioned. After all, he was the doctor. He was the one in control. As the day wore on, Marcus Green sat nervously in the hospital waiting room. He had been to many doctors before, but nothing prepared him for the coldness he had encountered at St. James Medical Center. The staff had barely acknowledged his presence when he walked in, and now, as he waited, he felt a familiar sting of being out of place. Marcus had been battling a severe medical issue for weeks. His condition wasn't life-threatening, but it had started to affect his quality of life. He didn't want to admit it to his family, but it hurt him deeply that his concerns were often dismissed. Today, however, he had hoped things would be different. He had seen the doctor's name on the file. Dr. Anderson. A well-known surgeon, someone who was supposed to have the best care for him. But Marcus had no idea what was about to happen next. When the nurse finally called his name, Marcus walked into the examination room, trying to set aside his discomfort. He had been through this before, but this time it was different. Dr. Anderson wasn't in the room. Instead, an assistant appeared, handed Marcus a clipboard, and asked him to sign a few forms. When he finally saw the doctor, Dr. Anderson barely looked up as he spoke. "Are you the patient in room 15? Mr. Green?" Dr. Anderson asked, barely looking at the man. Marcus nodded, unsure whether it was the long wait or the dismissive tone that made him feel even more uneasy. "I'll send in someone else to handle this," Dr. Anderson muttered before walking out of the room without another word. The assistant looked at Marcus with a strange mix of pity and disbelief. Marcus didn't know whether to be angry or to accept the reality that this was just another day where his race determined how he was treated. The following day, Marcus Green returned to St. James Medical Center to meet with another specialist for a follow-up. When he arrived at the hospital, he was greeted by a surprise. Dr. Anderson was waiting for him at the front desk. He wasn't looking at Marcus with the dismissive gaze from the day before. Instead, his eyes were wide with shock, and his usual professional demeanor was replaced with uncertainty. You're here again," Dr. Anderson stammered. "But how?" Marcus looked at him, confused. "I don't understand, Doc. What's the problem?" Dr. Anderson hesitated, looking uncomfortable. He finally spoke. Yesterday I was informed that I made a mistake," Dr. Anderson confessed. "I had signed off your file as not my patient. I didn't realize until later, until I overheard some staff members talking about it. I didn't treat you like I should have. The truth is, I didn't even give you the chance." Marcus stood silent for a moment, unsure of what to say. He knew what had just happened. The prejudice, the judgment, the system. All of it was a silent cruelty that affected him every single day. But what shocked him most was that Dr. Anderson had the audacity to admit it. Still, words were empty to him now. Action was what mattered. "I'll make it right," Dr. Anderson continued. "I promise you, Marcus, you'll be treated as you deserve from here on out." Marcus left the hospital that day with a sense of anger still lingering inside him. Yes, Dr. Anderson had apologized, but it was clear that systemic racism ran much deeper than a single interaction. The reality was that Marcus didn't need the apology. He needed something far more meaningful, lasting change. Dr. Anderson's realization didn't erase the pain, but it was a step in the right direction. Marcus hoped that one day this wouldn't be just his story. This would be a story that others could look to and say, "This must never happen again." How many more stories like this will it take before equality is more than just an idea? When will society stop disregarding racial injustice and truly make a change? Where are you watching from? Take care.